Raila Odinga, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya, a renowned pro-democracy icon and dyed-in-wool pan-Africanist, will not win the African Union Commission chairperson position, and this is why. Before we go very far into this analysis, let's take a listen to this clip to understand why we say this man is not right for this position.
We're seeing uprising happening in this continent. In your country, it's happening in Mozambique. What are these young people telling the African leadership?
I've mentioned that the African youth is vibrant, and African youth needs to be challenged. African youth needs to be empowered. If African youth is empowered, China's population is almost the same like African population today. First, China spent a lot of resources in manpower development. Two, they also saw a cheap source of raw materials. Political philosophy, they rushed to China and produce in China. Materials that they are rushing for in China is made with raw materials from Africa for products to go and make steel products in China. China managed to move 600 million people from poverty to middle income status.
My question wasn't on China or AI, respectfully. What are the young people telling you when you see the young people protesting, uprising in your country, in Mozambique? What are they telling you?
Here, instead of giving a straight answer on what he can do to address the challenges faced by the youth, candidate Raila spends a whole 5 minutes talking about outlier issues that don't directly say what he will do.
China, they rushed to China. China managed.
To understand why Raila will not win and is not the right candidate for this position, let's start with what work the African Union Commission AUC Chairperson does and how candidate Jacob does not fit into each of these roles. Technically, the chairperson of the AUC is charged with the Commission's administration and finances, promoting and popularizing the AU's objectives and enhancing its performance, consulting and coordinating with key stakeholders like member states, development partners, RECs, among others, including appointing and managing Commission staff, acting as a depository for all AU and OAU treaties and legal instruments. While Raila has some head start on this due to his past role as African Union's High Representative for Infrastructure Development in Africa, his past in management is nothing to speak of. During the Grand Coalition government that earned him the Prime Minister title, the acrimony and the infighting between his side of government and Kibaki's side put the country on the edge, which ultimately led to its failure to deliver on any of his key promises on socio-economic reforms, particularly in addressing unemployment, corruption, and inequality. The African Union is a highly bureaucratic organization with entrenched systems that require significant reform. Raila has faced criticism in the past for not aggressively pushing through systemic reforms, such as during his tenure as Kenya's Prime Minister. The protocol relating to the establishment of the Peace and Security Council, PSC, also allows him to use his good offices in the prevention, management, and resolution of conflicts on the continent. These duties imply that the AUC Chair needs to be both technically sound in the management of the Commission and a seasoned diplomat to deal with the various stakeholders in the diplomatic space. The past 4 chairs of the AUC were former ministers of foreign affairs and have therefore been people with a wealth of knowledge on continental challenges and associated priorities and commitments, and at the same time, their ministerial positions have also allowed them to build and sustain relationships across the continent and beyond. While Raila Odinga has had a chance to interact with regional and global leaders in the 20-something years he has been in high government positions in Kenya, diplomacy and the craft is a different kettle of fish requiring skills, patience, and insight that might be lacking for the indomitable lion of Africa. His abrasive style of politics might lead to more alienation than bringing to the table warring factions. Given the central role of the chairperson, the importance of this mix of skills and experience cannot be overstated. The African Union has struggled with issues of corruption and mismanagement in the past. Raila's critics might question whether his leadership would sufficiently tackle these issues given similar challenges during his political career. Effectively instituting and enforcing accountability across the AU's complex structures may demand a level of administrative rigor he has been critiqued for lacking in prior roles, especially during the Grand Coalition government in Kenya. Another priority for the next commission and its chairperson will be the effective implementation of the Agreement on the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, which was adopted in March 2018 and entered into force in January 2021. While this is generally one area that will be led by technocrats and the Secretariat, the AUC Chair has to keep it top as an agenda due to the significant role it will play in helping Africa achieve Agenda 2063. It remains to be seen if candidate Odinga will place it as a key priority, knowing the many interested parties who would want it to fail. One of the continent's priorities, peace and security, remains a challenge. Conflict and violent extremism in South Sudan, Libya, Mali, and the Sahel, as well as the Lake Chad Basin, have fluctuated between complete deterioration and substantial improvement. Yet no lasting resolution has been found, even if the latest developments in Libya, Sudan, and South Sudan allow a glimmer of hope. In addition, political tensions are rife in many countries, including Côte d'Ivoire, Guinea, and Mozambique, where incumbents have been re-elected in controversial elections. As a perennial presidential elections loser, Raila might not be the neutral arbiter these parties would need in such situations. Both the AUC Chairperson and Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security play a pivotal role in continental peace and security through, for instance, supporting the PSC, which holds the primary responsibility in these matters. As AUC Chairperson, he would need to demonstrate diplomatic finesse and impartiality in resolving conflicts, which may differ from his more politically assertive approach in Kenya. The AU and other regional bodies is still seen as an organization of heads of state, far removed from the African people. This is owing to the AU's principled positions, which often overlook people's grievances while appearing to side with incumbents. Bringing the AU closer to Africans will require bridging the gap between national governments and their citizens through more democratic, transparent, and inclusive governance. While Raila might succeed in achieving these due to his politics and people's skills, it remains to be seen, if given the position, whether this one advantage will make a difference in the sea of so many gaps in his suitability for this position. These are also compounded by the unity shown by French-speaking regions of Africa in fronting and supporting their candidates. So, from the onset, candidate Raila starts his race unsure of garnering the 29 votes from these countries and the 19 majority Muslim countries who most likely will support the Djibouti candidate.